Hello and welcome back to another tutorial from PHStudios. This is part of the mini-series that discusses tutorial making. Last tutorial, if you could call it a tutorial, we just discussed what to do, what not to do during the tutorial making process, what things to cover in the video, and some important things that I recommend from what I've learned in the past. And so just general things on the tutorial making process itself. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about editing. How to edit your tutorials that you made. Okay, so I did mention this program in the previous video. I mentioned an issue with this program as well that you should be aware of. Other than that issue, it is a very decent program. It is $300, so you get what you pay for. It is an amazing program. I even use it to do non-tutorial things, like in my Minecraft videos. I do not use Camtasia Studio to record Minecraft videos. I use Fraps because it gives me the best performance as I'm playing. Camtasia Studio, it likes to drop into 20 frames per second. I've seen people record it with Camtasia Studio, but I did not have the time to mess with the recording settings and have that somehow mess up my tutorials. So I just went and bought Fraps for my Minecraft tutorials. So I use Fraps, but I use Camtasia Studio to encode the video. I use that because it is the perfect encoding program I've ever used. Even in my promo videos, I create everything in After Effects, the little videos that you see, like the hyperspace effect. The promo for the hyperspace effect was just the effect. I did that all in After Effects. I encoded that in the best possible resolution, and a 10-second video with the best settings was about 20 gigabytes. So I put that in Camtasia Studio and it recorded and encoded it down to 1 megabyte. So it has a really great encoding procedure that you can use. So the $300, I bought that not for just tutorial making, for just the actual encoding process. I think it is amazing to get a 20-minute tutorial down to sometimes 30 megabytes. But anyway, that's what we'll discuss in this tutorial. Just how to edit your recordings in Camtasia Studio. Alright, so this is the tutorial I just made, last tutorial. And the very first thing I do is go over the two different videos. The very first video on my channel, on the YouTube channel, and one of the last tutorials on my YouTube channel, and the differences between the two. Okay, so let's find a point. Let's zoom in a little bit. Click this button to zoom in. And I did leave that intentional long pause so I can discuss editing. I think it's right here. What this does. Okay, next step. So I'll have two long pauses. So if you want to keep one of the long pauses, we're going to talk about editing. And I left that giant pause in there because I'm going to demonstrate. So if you want to leave one of those in there, you can. Otherwise, you can edit both of those. So sometimes in my videos, even me, I have to pause and think, what class was this method from? Thinking of a programming video or something like that. I just have to think for a second, but I don't want that to be known in the videos, so I'll have to strip the silence out. You can click this little split. You go to where you want to in the timeline. Click this little split icon, and then you can click that. However, sometimes you will want a decent amount of silence. So you will just have to do trial and error and find out which silent portion is appropriate. Like, you don't want to have one thing end and immediately the next thing begins. You know, people do pauses in speech classes and actual speeches and stuff like that. So, just watch your video, try it out, try the split a few times, grab a section, and then hit play, and then see what it sounds like. What this does. Okay, next step, we're going to talk about editing. Okay, so I just deleted that pause, and it sounds pretty good. So I'm going to undo that because I actually want to leave that in. Because that will seem kind of weird when I release the tutorials that I say that the pause was in there, but it actually wasn't. But I'm going to undo this first one. I'm going to delete this first pause. Alright, so you just grab a section of your video, you go to it in your timeline, you click the timeline area, and then you can click and hold and it will drag it. And then once you find out where you want to be, you can zoom in even further to get a nice precision. I want to go a little bit farther than that, so I can just get more precision the more I zoom in. The more you zoom out, obviously, the less precision you get. Alright, so that's basically it. When you have multiple recordings, let's go ahead and save this project. Let's save this as tutorial making basics. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up another project. I just did a recent project, validation today, and I split this up into 4 videos. So once you have 4 or several videos for one tutorial, you can actually drag and drop these. Now, if you do them one after another, like you don't do 2 and then come back and do 2 later, they will automatically populate. What I mean by that is if I go back to the tutorial making basics and I go to the very end, I click this little next clip, I go to the very end of the video, and then click this new recording, record a screen. And then I actually do a recording, and then I stop the recording, it will automatically put the recording after this clip. So if you're working on the appropriate project, it'll automatically populate the clip in the timeline. Now, you can go into the audio settings and manipulate some audio. You can enable voice optimization and that sort of things, but I rarely ever do that. I only do that when I have a song at the very beginning or at the end, and I want to balance the sound, my voice, and the music. But that's pretty much all I do. You can also do transitions. So it's a pretty decent program. Callouts I sometimes use when I make a mistake, but most of the time I do that on the YouTube side. You can just say, throw in a text box here and say, I have made a mistake. And then explain what the mistake is, obviously, but that's what callouts are. Actually, I want to remove that one. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this mini-series. I hope you learned something if you are ever interested in the tutorial making, creating your own tutorials. I hope you'll take some of the advice that I gave you, and I hope some of you found it useful. And I hope that you just watch these tutorials for something different, and if you do, give me a thumbs up on YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time for more networking tutorials.